Okay, good morning, everybody. Hello again from Kuala Lumpur. Nice to see you all. Hello, I know some of the faces, Mathrine and so on. So, well, this is the first time I'm actually doing a seminar on the, I wanted to say exam pieces, but it's not, on the competition pieces. So I have actually adjudicated twice for the Hong Kong School Music Festival, and I think it's the biggest festival in the world. I had a great time adjudicating this, and I think it's one of the only competitions that I have done where you go into to adjudicate about 3 hours and about 40 something, sometimes 50 kids come in and play exactly the same piece. So the standards are pretty high, and even if I didn't know the piece well, after about 10 students, you know every single bar and every single difficult spots and so on. So yes, the competition is tough, and also I think it's important to be able to choose one that suits your student. Not every student is good at playing every single kind of style and so on, but luckily every grade we have got different styles. So let's begin with the grade 6. I believe all of you have received the PDF files that I have put a lot of annotations and so on. Just bear in mind that all these are my own suggestions. So in terms of like fingering, paddling and all that, as you know, music can be quite subjective. There is not only one solution, so it doesn't have to be that way. You can experiment and try different ways. But on the other hand, also be a little bit selfish. Since you have made time and paid to come for this seminar, don't share out all these markings and so on freely with your colleagues or your close friends. I mean, I don't want really all my markings to be freely distributed everywhere. Yeah. Okay, so for the grade 6, we've got 3 pieces, one by Scarlatti, Haydn, and then Schumann. So 3 quite different styles. Depending on your student, I would say if you have a very musical student who is very sensitive and very imaginative and has got very good lyrical control, then the Schumann is very suitable. If your student has got good finger work and technique, then I think the Haydn and the Scarlatti could be very good choices. So with the Scarlatti, I think some of you probably would have taught this. It was a grade 6 piece some years back, maybe 6 or 8 years ago for ABRSM. So this D minor Scarlatti, I would say generally there can be different approaches. If you listen to very early recordings on the piano of this, you might find some pianists using a lot of pedal, playing it very cantabile and very kind of lush and so on. But some people play it with slightly more detached articulation. Some edition has got the word pastoral or pastorale written at the start, meaning it's a very kind of relaxed, outdoors, countryside kind of mode. So it's quite relaxed, although it says allegro, it doesn't have to be too fast, but it needs to flow along. Sometimes it's fine to play legato and slightly cantabile like this. Sometimes you might find some pianists prefer having some slightly detached notes. That's why I put some brackets there, which is fine, but just don't make the staccatos too short. It's still a very lyrical nature. So. Yeah, either way is fine, okay? Let me just play the legato one for the first phrase anyway. When you come to bar 5 though, with all this, all the first quavers of each group is an appoggiatura, so they are expressive, and then it resolves. So make sure the second note is lighter. So I will slur that, and then when it skips, probably lightly detach that. To there. So do a slight diminuendo as it comes down to bar 8. And then we have these thirds. Now that is difficult to have it neat. Very often I hear students playing this and it goes a little bit sticky. To make it sound neater, play a slightly non-legato touch. Yeah, and keep the left hand quite light so that it doesn't sound too thick. And so on. Yeah, so the right hand, a slightly brighter sound. Left hand, I was just playing about this. Extremely light, so. Very often with Scarlatti, you get rhythmic notations like in bar 11, where you have this semi-quaver and then suddenly two demi-semi. Now, this kind of rhythm is not to be taken literally. He just wants the effect of it slightly speeding up because there are more than 6 notes in that beat. So you don't have to play it mathematically correct. As long as the main beats are there, it should sound like it's slightly rushing forward and do a crescendo through it. So from bar before, oh, should you want to ask any questions about the pieces and so on, feel free to type it in the chat group, not chat group, the chat box. I will keep an eye on it. So if there's any questions, just immediately type a question there. Yeah. So bar 11 to 12. Now with all the leaping staccatos, octaves and left hand with all this, I would play them all detached. So this trill can be however many notes you want. If you're lazy, just play 4 notes. If not, more notes, but definitely stop the trill at some point and then tie across. So. And then a lower octave in bar 21, maybe slightly quieter. Same thing with this scale. So think of a longer first note and then just a rush up, keeping as long as you keep the beats steady. So. Then the second section, you can start a little bit quieter with more legato if you want for all these stepwise movements. Slightly higher sequence, slightly stronger. So in bar 37, when it goes up to the top C, just have a slight crescendo. There's a lot of stepwise movement here, so it could be more legato as well. So. And then again the appoggiatura and then the leap, so detach that. Same thing with the thirds, keep the left hand very light. And then another rush of scales going upwards, so crescendo towards that. Okay, yeah, it's quite a well-known sonata, so you'll find quite a lot of pianists perform it, as well as harpsichordists. Okay, any questions? No. All right, so the next piece is a Haydn scherzando from one of his piano sonatas. This is a very nice, very playful kind of mood. The tempo doesn't have to be extremely fast, but it needs a certain speed so that it sounds very lively and con brio, with vigor. So generally, I would say for the left hand, it's fairly straightforward. The difficulty is in the right hand, that with some of these quick notes, some of the ornaments, and so on. So all this. Yeah, all these quick notes. Quite a lot of the quavers could be detached. I don't think Haydn wrote any dynamics right at the start, but I think the mood is playful, but it doesn't have to be too loud at first. So I've just suggested an MP there. You might also find some people preferring to play legato here, which is possible, as long as you keep the tempo. Yeah, I'll just start again. So all these demi-semi-quavers are very light, more like grace notes, very quick and light. So try not to press in, just bounce off. Yeah, think of them as more ornaments rather than actual big notes. So. And then it moves towards the dominant key here. It goes higher, so maybe a bit brighter here, generally about MF or so. And then the second half of this first section, again, slightly lean in on this appoggiatura in bar 10, the first note on bar 10. So. Keep the left hand all pretty light. In fact, here it could be either some wrist staccato or possibly just using the whole forearm, but very small movements to keep it very light. Now, just contrast this bar 13 with the beginning. Beginning is. Oh, it's quite good to teach your students oral here about cadences. That's the perfect cadence. This time, it goes to chord 6, so interrupt the cadence. So expression-wise, it should feel different. So perhaps a diminuendo, even holding back a little bit if you want, and then brighter. Then we get episode. It's a kind of ABACA kind of section. So now in bar 17, it goes to A minor and perhaps slightly stronger dynamics. So as the music moves forwards, you crescendo towards the fortissimo that I think Haydn himself has marked. Then bar 23, strong. And then just drop the dynamics a little bit in bar 26. So when you finish strongly, then start a bit less and then build up again. And then the beginning comes back. Don't forget to take a breath in between sections like this, from a loud ending. Back to the theme, yeah? And then across the page, you get it's a kind of variation of the opening theme. You could use the left hand to start the first 3 notes, since the left hand is there. But if you're confident with the right hand, you could do that too. Like what is written, yeah? Don't forget to also shape all these semiquavers. It's not enough just to play it clearly, play every note clearly like a finger exercise or journey or whatever. Still think of the theme with some shaping, diminuendos and crescendos. So. change of mood, slightly lighter and softer. In classical pieces, there's very often the use of this rotary motion, the forearm rotation here. So here in bar 43, we use that, keeping the wrist very relaxed. And then that variation of the opening comes back. Goes to minor now, but this time higher. In bar 53 and 54, you get a lot of these broken chords. Now here, I don't think I will think of them as a harmony. I'll think of them as melodies. So perhaps not, don't put pedal, don't play. That sounds a little bit too much of a romantic style. So we want to hear it as one single voice going up and down. Shape this, especially feel the corner, the C to the B here. Yeah, so slight crescendo, diminuendo, but keep it sounding like one voice. And a lot of very slightly short staccatos will help make it sound playful. So. Same thing, bring out the top two notes. Sorry. And then when the harmonies come in bar 61, if you want, you can put some very light shallow pedal there. As you crescendo to the top E. So. Then the theme comes back again over across the page. You can find one time, for example, to play this theme very, very soft as a contrast. So this time maybe play it almost kind of even without so much shaping, very, very soft. That's a contrast. I mean, it doesn't have to be here, it could be an earlier time and so on. And then another variation. Sorry. More variations. There's a slightly difficult leap in bar 82 here, so you can take a little bit of time jumping out. So it doesn't have to be exactly metronomic here. Feel that big leap. Then the theme comes back and then we finish. With quite a big finish with loud chords, yeah. This scale, do a big crescendo going up, and then you finish. Okay. All right. Now the third piece in this grade 6 category is this lovely piece by Schumann from his album For the Young. Now this one, on the surface, when you just look at the score, it looks like just lots and lots of semi-quavers, but this is actually very quite intimate and quite expressive. It is AABB section, so although it looks long, depending on the layout, if you get the ABRSM Encore book, there are even more pages, but it's actually just half as long, and it's quite a lot of repeated motifs and so on. Yeah, so a lot of the staccatos here are slurred. And this is what a lot of pianists call portato, P-O-R-T-A-T-O. So it's not a short staccato, nothing like the Haydn staccatos just now, but a lazier, more relaxed and more expressive kind of staccato. Yeah, so think of it as very lyrical and expressive. And you can afford to use pedal even in some of these staccatos. But if you want to use pedal, I would suggest changing most of the time in quavers, because it's not very fast. It needs to flow, but nicht schnell means not fast. So a 4-bar phrase divided into 2 parts, 2 bar by 2 bars. Remember to hold the left hand bass note, the E, going to E sharp. Yeah. A lot of the grace notes and other ornaments can be played before the beat. So the main melody, so you just fit those grace notes in between the notes, keeping them very light. Then higher sequence, going to F sharp minor, maybe slightly more. There are a lot of little repetitions here. So for example, in bar 5, you get this 1-bar phrase, or 1-bar unit. And then repeat, so maybe like an echo. You also notice I actually just leave the pedal for a little while with the staccatos, with the semi-staccatos there. So you could do that. So the first time, more pedaled. Second time, lighter, yeah? And then it grows. As you hear, there needs to be a lot of this, what we call flow and ebb. So sometimes moving forward, sometimes holding back. So quite a lot of rubato needed. I mean, if you play this part all metronomical, it will sound very unstylistic and unmusical. Then definitely that's not going to get a very good mark. Feel, for example, how it leaps up an octave. So if you're a singer or string player, you take a bit more time with that jump. Although I wouldn't accent the top. Yeah, so then it's a kind of interrupted cadence, so diminuendo. Yeah, and then slight breath. Again. Then this time 5-1. So again, you can slow down, and then it's a repetition of A. So now, when the whole section repeats, you could think about having slightly different dynamics, slightly different rubato, and so on as well. For example, maybe this time in bar 16, 17, don't diminuendo so much at that interrupted cadence. Maybe build up to the forte. So you could do that. If I go from bar 15, then do a crescendo, slow down. Yeah. So adjudicators would appreciate hearing some slightly different treatment when you have repetitions. Then we come to the B section now in bar 20. The FP, don't be too rough on that F, on that first chord. Just put some arm weight on the top note. The chord shouldn't be overly heavy. Another one. Slow down. So in bar 24, then the main theme comes back. Yeah, so you can gradually read into it. I'll just play the bar before, bar 23. This is the same. Then and it goes to a different direction now. Now here, if you can show your tonal control, your control of the balance, it will be very impressive. So at the end of bar 32, you have this theme in the right hand. Then immediately the left hand imitates. Goes to the right hand. So if you can bring that out and keep the top part light, then we can hear that imitation. Let me go from bar 32 again. Then left hand. Then there's a repetition. So I'll just play from here to the end. An idea for the second time, for example, in bar 40, when you slow down for the theme to come back. Now this time you could bring out that descending line. So bring out, going to the bass as a different approach this time. I'll just play from bar 39. Left hand theme. Now just be careful about the ending right at the end. I mean, it should slow down, but the rhythm is still flowing. So if you look at the last two semiquavers, it's actually a 4/3 suspension, isn't it? And here, make sure you change the pedal again on the G. So when you resolve while holding the E. Otherwise, you're going to get a little clash if you don't change the pedal. Can you hear that? I mean, if it's in passing in the middle of the piece, it's not so obvious, but right at the end, it will sound bad if you end with a clash. Yeah, so change. Okay. Right. Now moving on to grade 7. What do we have? We have Bach, Schubert, and then the E-Bar. I would say probably for a young student, the E-Bar is the most straightforward in terms of music, the musicality there. Although technically there are some challenges. Technically, the easiest in some way is the Schubert, the second one, but you do need a very musical student with very good tonal control and also rhythmic control. The Bach, I remember, was an alternative piece some years ago. This is actually quite challenging. It's a jig, but it's actually a particularly brilliant and fast jig. So you do need somebody who is quite agile at the keyboard to bring it off. So this jig has a lot of hand crossing. So the left hand really is the star of the piece. So it does most of this athletic up and down. So you might want to just take out the left hand by itself to practice. The right hand is simple enough. It's basically just broken harmonies. But the coordination with the left hand has got to be even. So there's a lot of... So you need to be able to hear the 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 triplet. It's very easily uneven, something like... Yeah, so make sure you can hear 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You could ask the student just to tap, just to hear the evenness of this triplet. Some people detach most of these left-hand notes. But it's quite nice to have some variety also. So to just slightly slur some of the stepwise movement, it should sound almost like two different instruments, like a duet. You get the high instrument and then the bass, like a bassoon or something. Then again bass, then yeah. So you could, as I say, slur. But this two-note slur, the second note is not weaker than the first note because the second note actually falls on a strong beat. So make sure it's still important. Don't diminuendo that. Yeah. So then with the right hand, just clearly articulated. So. You also have to sometimes navigate the right and the left hand, otherwise you get a traffic jam between them. So generally the left hand, actually not generally, really, the left hand is on top all the time of the right hand. So the right hand, keep the hand fairly flat, so that it's not in the way of the right hand, not in the way of the left hand, I mean. And then in bar 5, you get a more stepwise movement in the left hand lower part. So here, you can think about playing more legato. So from end of bar 4, some people detach when it has the broken chord. Either way is fine as long as you're consistent about it. The ornament, you'll hear some pianists playing 4 notes. Starting from the upper note. That makes it a little bit more difficult, so you could try it as long as, again, you are consistent about it. But for a slightly easier execution, probably just 3 notes. Yeah. Okay, let me just go from the start to here. And then now there's a lot of to and fro with the upper part and the lower part. The higher part is climbing up all the time, so plan a slight crescendo, going up to A flat in bar 12, and then it actually drops. So instead of going up, it comes down, so the dynamics can come down a little bit. And then at the end, you can have a strong finish to it. So from, where was I? From bar 9 now. You can think of a crescendo right at the end. And then strong. So bar 17, you can start fairly strong, and then as it kind of becomes closer in the range, you can have a slight diminuendo. So. And then it again climbs up to the top here, the top C. So again, plan a crescendo from bar 21. And then you get a more sustained melody. Ending with G minor 5-1 in bar 27 to 28. Yeah, so again, build towards that so that we can have a sense of direction towards the cadence. So from bar 25. Then from here, then it actually contracts again and moves towards E flat major. So slightly diminuendo. Yeah. And then from bar 32, it's a really long phrase. So if you look at 32, it doesn't resolve. If you look at the harmonies, it comes down, so it should, I would do a diminuendo, but it's a really long diminuendo. So it's very, very, very gradual. So from bar 32, 33, 34, come down, all diminished 7 chords. To bar 41. So you need to plan a diminuendo across 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 9 bars. So quite a long diminuendo. So start 32, I would say fairly strong. I'll just play a couple of bars before that from bar 30. So slightly bright at first. Then just barely inching down bit by bit as it goes down. Here, and then it's going to build up. So slightly different from the first time. So the melody goes up. If you remember, it actually dropped down in the first time, but this time it keeps on going up. And so I would finish off strongly, building up to the end. So bar 41. So tricky, I would say it's actually quite tricky to just come out on stage and play this. It's a short piece, but from start to finish, it's quite kind of athletic. So I would say only for the more confident sort of students. Okay, now moving on to the Schubert. This is a lovely piece. I didn't know this before. This is one movement from his E flat major sonata, which is not such a well-known sonata. This is a minuet, but as with a lot of Schubert, it's very lyrical in concept. And here, yeah, the right hand needs to really sing out, even through some detached notes and so on. So you do really need to balance a lot of chords and harmonies. The other thing you need here is a very good grasp of dotted rhythm, which is simple enough. You just do one of them. But you need to be very consistent because there's a whole passage with all this. And I find that most students start off okay, start off correct, and then after some time, because of the notes and the different chords and so on, the rhythm starts to become a little bit lax. So instead of, you get a little gap between the short and the long note, or sometimes they end up sounding more like triplets than dotted rhythm. So here you need a very good, consistent dotted rhythm. Lots of pedal. Also, feel free to use quite a lot of una corda for the softer passages here. Schubert actually did have an una corda pedal in his piano, so it is perfectly stylistic. So very lyrical and cantabile. Yeah, 4-bar phrase. The ornament generally, grace notes and so on, I'll play before the beat. Except 1 or 2 appoggiaturas. So keep the left hand very much in the background, just accompanying the right hand melody. Yeah, ending on this 1C5. Now, even bar 6, you get this staccatos but slurred against semi-staccato. So like the portato I was talking about. So here also I would use some pedal, but just broken, detached pedals. So second phrase, pedal, pedal, pedal. Yeah. So with some pedals, so that it's not too clipped and too short. The ornament here in the right hand, this is bar 6. This is an appoggiatura, so I would play that on the beat as 2 quavers. And then pianissimo. If you want, you can use the soft pedal here. Going to that interrupted cadence. You can again put very, very short pedal, separated pedals here. And then off your soft pedal. And then the next section, bar 13, can you see it says poco rit? Now, rit means held back, so immediately it can be a slightly more careful, slightly calmer tempo rather than getting slower. Ritardando is getting slower. Ritenuto tends to mean just hold back, sometimes immediately, like here. So take your time. So the semi-quavers in this passage needs to be very light. You can treat this almost like an early, before the beat acciaccatura. So the main notes is, so, yeah. So don't make it sound like a jazz swing, which will be totally the wrong style, yeah? So very light. You get some leaps, but use the pedal to help you get there. The accents here are all very expressive, so nothing too sudden. And then take off the soft pedal. Now the melody is in the left hand tenor part, or in the middle, shared between the hands. Sorry, it's all in the left hand, not shared between the hands. So the right hand chord, just very gentle accompanying. So although you see an accent, it's more a expressive stress. You want to hear the left hand. So here is still the left hand, shape it crescendo, and the B flat, and then falls down chromatically. So we want to hear that, yeah? Right hand very soft. So with the soft chords, what you could do is to slightly sweep out with a very loose wrist. So when you do that, the keys descend very slowly, then you get a more gentle, lighter sound. So then you get octaves. Now, to get a more cantabile quality for octaves, try to bring out the top note and keep the thumb really soft. So sometimes I ask students to practice like this, hanging onto the top note and just touch and let go the thumb. So you get used to leaning into the top notes, yeah? But of course, eventually when you play, you still keep very close to the keys and don't play the thumbs quite so staccato. Diminuendo. Then again, soft pedal if you want here. And then off. So that's your A section. This is ternary form, ABA. Then you come to the trio, which is very gentle. It's got all these dotted rhythms. So again, as I say, you must think of, you must have a very consistent treatment of the dotted notes. For dotted notes, think of short, long as a group. So think of short, long, short, long, rather than long, short, long, short, long, short, which can make the rhythm a little bit stilted. Yeah. One thing unusual about this is not in 4-bar phrases for the first part of this. It's in 5-bar phrases. So you need to think of a slightly extended phrase where you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah. So a longer 5-bar phrase. You can soft pedal here being pianissimo, but use a lot of the damper pedal also to join some of the notes. So even the staccatos shouldn't be too dry. I would just put a touch of pedal there, yeah? Then slight crescendo. Then it gets a little bit more agitated in bar 50 and so on. You get some of these louder chords. Be careful not to overdo it. Perhaps just bringing out a bit more of the bass. Otherwise, it will cover the right hand. Then back to the theme. So you can slightly slow down in bar 56. Back to the theme. Now, as an interesting thing to do, since this is like the second or third time you hear this theme, you could bring out a bit of the left hand, and then you bring out just a bit of that, and then get back to the right hand, just to get a different color and texture. So. Enjoy the rest here. So don't pedal or don't join the pedal in the left hand. Off, and then you go back to. Yeah. Some people like to vary the tempo a tiny bit in trios. That's possible as long as you get back to tempo when it goes to the main minuet section. A lot of the times the trio is a bit more relaxed compared to the outer A sections. Yeah. Okay, the next piece I'm sure a lot of you would have been teaching because it is a current grade 7 exam piece. It is a really good piece actually, but you do need pretty good left hand wrist staccatos in the middle. There are a lot of repeated chords. That is a little bit challenging. So, but I think most young students will relate to this piece very well. It's about a little white donkey. Apparently it's a real white donkey that Iber met or saw in, where was it? I think North Africa, Morocco or somewhere. So he saw this little white donkey. So this is a little white donkey with his little legs trotting along. So you need a little bit of finger staccato here, but keep your fingers extremely close to the keys, so that you get a very soft, light staccato. You could bring out the bass, the F sharp, then G sharp, F sharp, just a tiny bit, but all extremely light. Now, it might be tempting to use the soft pedal right from the start. I might not do that because later on the theme comes back and it's triple P, PPP. So you might want to reserve soft pedal for that moment. So just keep very, very near the keys. Very playful. Lointain, the word means from far, as in from a distance. So it should sound like you see the white donkey from very far, trotting along. So keep very close to the keys. Enjoy the syncopation in bar 6 here. So spring up is like a little hop, isn't it, of the donkey. Up and then hold that. And then, so show the slurs, the legato and the staccato. So here you get more legato, then and so on, yeah? So no pedal needed at the start. Then these are supposed to be the little donkeys. What do donkeys do? Bray, the sound, the sounds they make. But still from far apart, from far away, so it's very light. I might just use the pedal to, just a touch of pedal to sustain the harmony so that you can hear the chord. Yeah, but basically it's a dominant 7 chord. So very light. Just lift the wrist as you play. Yeah. And then in bar 20, you see the word soutenu there, which means sostenuto. So here, although you shouldn't pedal, try as much as possible to show 2 legato lines. Especially the middle one, the chromatic, if you can make it a real finger legato, it'll be very effective. Then you get a lot of repeated chords. Here, definitely you need a lot of wrist staccato, this sort of action. The pedal that I think Iber put himself seems at an odd place, but it is where all the accents are. So pedal off, it's just to help the accents get a richer sonority. Slightly hold back, like the donkey is coming to a little rest. And then in the next bar, suddenly it springs to life. So this is quite difficult for the left hand. Again, you need very loose wrist for wrist staccato, but at the same time, the fingertips must be firm enough so that you can hear all the... Now, if it's too loose, it might not be neat. You can ask the students to just practice on the triad, maybe on all the white notes. And going up, just to get used to that loose wrist, but at the same time, firm hand shape. So. Same thing, pedal on that accent chord to help you slur it, and then just lift. Then here, from the left hand, you have to pass to the right hand, so it needs to match whatever touch that you are using. So then the left hand, play a little bit more. So maybe think of the right hand as pianissimo, left hand maybe more mezzo piano, so that you can bring out the melody. And then you get some repeated notes and some jabbing chords. These ones can be a little bit stronger now in the right hand, all these accents. So have a slightly higher wrist and then just slightly push, jerk forward. But remember to loosen the wrist. Same thing, the pedal is all on the accented chords. Face away, and then slow down. I mean, the last bar here, you could switch parts and the left hand play the chord, right hand play that. Or if you want, you can do the same. And then just pass that C sharp over to the right hand. And then here, this time, I would use the soft pedal. So the little donkey has gone even further. Very quiet. Still keep the soft pedal. And then maybe lift off the soft pedal somewhere around 72 if you want. But you get all these legato notes. Now, in bar 75, it's different from the first time. The first time in that same passage, you hear staccato, but this time is legato. So make the most of that. Show that this time is very legato. And then it sounds like the little donkey is coming to a stop. Slow down here. And then back to tempo. Yeah, really cute piece. I think a lot of young students will be able to identify quite well with it. Yeah. All right. Okay, now let's move on to grade A now. Let me see if there are any questions. No questions. Okay, the three pieces are one from Baroque, one from classical, and then one from Debussy. This first one I would say probably is the most complicated. This is a Handel fugue from one of his suites. This is a current alternative piece for the A list. So this is a fugue with a very bold, strong subject. So you get long notes. So because of the character, it says allegro and it's quite strong. I would very slightly separate a lot of these notes, but don't make them staccato. So even the crotchets, I think of them as slightly longer but weighty notes. The quavers, however, can be slightly shorter. And now and then, if you want, you could have some slurred notes. So you've seen I've marked down some of the slurred notes. A lot of that is optional. If you want, you can keep a lot of the quavers all detached. I've also put quite a lot of pedal in. Some of them you can leave out, but some I think you really do need on the piano to make it slightly more sonorous and also to join some of the notes, because the piano in some sense could be a bit drier when you play a note, and when you let go it immediately kills it, whereas in the harpsichord when you play that it rings out a little bit. So I think you should use a bit of pedal here, but you have to be very careful. Yeah. So this is the subject. And then just slightly less strong for the quavers. Third voice. So you see the subject is all very kind of strong with all these long important notes. So places where there are no subjects, for example, in bar 15, do you remember your fugue structure where all the subjects, answers, cordetta, episodes, and so on? So all the cordettas and episodes, the places without the subject, a lot of the time can be a little bit lighter in texture, so that you're not like being pummeled with strong accents all the time. So for contrast, bar 15 can be a bit lighter. So that when the theme comes in again in bar 19, it has a contrast and you can hear it, the entry clearly. So. A lot of the chords, the longer chords anyway, in bar 20, for example, in the left hand, if you want, you could just spread that. The harpsichordist will definitely do it. Yeah, you don't have to spread every single one, but some of the longer ones, that's the choice. And it is actually slightly easier to bring out the thumb here if you spread this chord. Yeah, bar 19. So from here, all these strong textures. Then in bar 23, 23, it moves closer to each other. So again, the dynamics can drop. Even if you play on the harpsichord, you'll hear that the dynamics drop down. So. Throughout this piece, there are a few strettos as well. So that's where the subject overlaps. So in bar, what bar is this? 27, from the tenor part, you get this theme. And then the soprano comes in. Yeah, so it kind of builds up. So you can build up in dynamics as well. The second entry needs to be as clear as the first one. So let me go from the entry of the left hand. Again, this is an episode here, so slightly calmer, slightly lighter, slightly softer in dynamics. And then the tenor comes in bar 37. More chords in the right hand now. Lots of octaves in the left hand, but around bar 60 and so on, just start to come down, otherwise it can sound really heavy. Just a question, Mr. Liu, do you prefer to do all detached notes but not legato in bar 5? Let me go back to bar 5. Okay, bar 5, I was doing all detached, but it's perfectly possible to have some slurs. I don't think I'll play everything legato. I don't think I will go. You could slur the first two notes. Some people might even slur other notes, for example. When it jumps, you detach and then slur the stepwise note. That's possible. So there are a lot of possibilities, but when you see the same pattern comes back, you should try to do the same thing. Whether you do everything detached, have some slurs and so on. Yeah. Okay, where were we? Yeah, I was talking about the octaves in the left hand. So in bar 60, well, basically from bar 53 right up to bar 63, there are octaves in the left hand. So at first you can be quite strong because it's like the beginning of the theme. But later on, from bar 60 onwards, I would actually just come down so that it's not always so heavy in the left hand. So. Then bar 66, the soprano has the theme now. Bass. Around bar 76, 77 onwards, for again a few bars, the texture is a bit lighter. So generally, look for clues in the texture. The thicker the texture is, generally it implies a stronger, grander dynamics. The thinner the texture is, it becomes a bit lighter. So there I would drop in dynamics around bar 77, 76. And then the left hand now has the theme. Octave now, so even stronger. Next page, and then the right hand top comes in, another stretto. So the top, the voice that comes in later needs to be very strong. Another one in the middle. Then bar 109, do you notice the lot of chords now, even more than 4 voices? So that would probably be one of the strongest dynamics in the piece. Again, if you want spread, arpeggiate some of these thick chords there. So going into that, 2 bars before that. So lighter texture here, again, slightly softer, slightly lighter. And then bar 1 to 8, the theme comes in again in the top. Then bar 1, 3, 4, you get the beginning of the theme there. But in bar 1, 3, 6, the left hand again overlaps it. So we want to hear the left hand thumb. Yeah. So let me go from bar 1, 3, 5 now. Build up towards this, this minim chord in bar 1, 4, 3. Here in bar 1, 4, 0, remember to hold the crotchets longer. So you could detach all the quavers, but hold the crotchets fully. Spread that chord. And then that final cadence, it could be a completely different tempo, slightly slower than the rest, almost as if he's marked an adagio there. And I think it should be a fairly strong ending. Let me go from 140 again. Okay, I've added this trill there. You don't need it. It could be just what it says. Slow down. You could spread that if you want. Yeah, but it is perfectly stylistic to add that trill in. All right. Okay, any other questions? No, just the one from Bonnie. Yeah, so you could mix some slurs and detached notes instead of detaching everything. That's perfectly fine. Yeah. Okay, moving on to the Mozart now. This is one of his early sonatas. It is slightly tricky technically. You need good fingers for this. It can easily become a little bit stiff. It's quite lively. You need to think about the textures. For example, in bar 3, when the left hand has all this. So keep the left hand very, very light. Again, you need very flexible, very supple wrist for this. Quite strong at first. Mozart didn't write any dynamics at the start, but looking at the parts with the chords and the leaps, probably is a forte kind of starting. Immediately in bar 2, the right hand is quite tricky with that trill. The maximum anybody plays is 3 notes. I don't think it works for trying to play an acciaccatura. It makes it even harder, really. So you need to try to fit in within the 3 beats. Yeah, so. These are all appoggiaturas and the resolution. So always think of a diminuendo. And then loud. You see a lot of forte piano. Don't overdo this for early Mozart. Just think of slightly brighter or busier textures, and then slightly lighter when you get the piano. So don't bang out the forte here. at the passage of triplets, broken chord triplets. Here, just play all of them fairly legato. I would never slur them off for sure. And sometimes you can bring out the more important melodic strand. So for example, bar 14. No, let's go from bar 13. Then you can bring out the F, G, A. So I've also put some pedal in that's possible. If you don't want to do it, don't want to use the pedal, it's also possible. Then you get the G, A, B. Yeah. Let me go into that from bar 11. Just be careful that the left hand is not overly heavy. Bar 16. So it's actually coming down. So from bar 18, I would be about forte there. So you could come down a little bit towards maybe more mezzo forte in around bar 22, 23. And the left hand, yeah, these are two note slurs. So think of the first note strong, second note just slightly weaker. Yeah, so from bar 18. And then your right hand can crescendo as it goes up. But end is soft. Then strong octaves. Quite tricky here for the hands. You need good third and fourth finger. I find that it helps if my wrist is loose and I think of it as down, up, like one group. Yeah, so of course you don't separate it, there's no time to separate it anyway. So I find loosening the wrist helps me play that. If you keep very still, it's extremely difficult and you might get tension on your forearm there. Yeah? Then when the left hand comes in, it's quite nice not to treat it like an accompaniment but an imitation of the right hand. So you want to hear the right hand first, left hand. Yeah, because it's exactly the same notes there. So. Same thing with the imitation. Then you get again this terrace dynamics, loud, soft, loud, soft. It can again induce a lot of tension in the right hand, especially the staccato bars, the forte bars. So here I will keep very close to the keys, and the main notes is. So the top G, keep it fairly light. Then you can use a bit of wrist staccato, but with it very close to the keys because it's quite fast. If you do a big movement, you can get tense quite a lot here. So. So here in bar, what is this? Bar 42. This trill, I would probably start from B because there's already a C before that. Then either 7 notes or 5 notes. The left hand, we want to hear the bass, then keep the rest quite light. So lift and think of a diminuendo. So. In bar 47, I would start these grace notes on the beat as part of the trill. So. Which means you don't really need to play the C in the left hand because the right hand plays it already. Then the right hand plays C. Yeah. And I'll probably play sextuplets, 6 notes per crotchet. So. In bar 51 and 52, although it's all one harmony, definitely I wouldn't use a long pedal, but if you find it a bit dry, you can put touches of pedal like how I've marked there. So overall, do a crescendo. So same thing here in the trill, the grace notes are the start of the trill, so play on the beat. Yeah, so and then we come to the development section. Very light. Then this is bar 60. It is a bit of a big stretch, especially if you've got a young student. So the left hand is there already. So just use the left hand to play the lower notes. So then like an echo, even slightly slow down, and then forte. So all the spread chords are strong, and then like two different instruments, maybe two clarinets, then not too short on that staccato, just think of a light note. Just lift the hands, lift the wrist. Slight slowing down, and then recapitulation. Do you remember the start? He spreads that chord, so it's perfectly stylistic to arpeggiate this chord as well. Okay, not too short on the staccatos. Same, and then now you got some hand crossing. So all the two note slurs are strong on the first beat, diminuendo to the second one. Yep. Bar 99. Sorry, let's do that again. You could also have a slight diminuendo. So start bar 99 and 100 fairly strong, and then just a tiny bit of diminuendo to around bar 104, 105, which can be about mezzo forte, and then you do another crescendo. Yeah, let me try that again. Then crescendo. And then again, the same passage with some imitation. And then I would say the most difficult passage, well, the part that I had to practice the most is here, 117 onwards, with some fairly difficult leaps. So it's important to establish your fingerings first, a little bit of pedal help. So all these figures, all these broken thirds, use rotary motion. Left hand has them as well. And then you get it in two hands. Yeah, so this is probably, I would say, the most challenging passage. Bar 117. This is the same, so bring out the more important lower notes. the same. Now, there's a really awkward bit in bar 139, that one. So you've noticed I've just slightly bracketed that last note in the left hand, bar 139. So using the right hand to play, I find that easier. But if your student can manage that, you could do that too. So. So quite a lot of tricky moments here, but if your student can manage that, it is a really good piece and really impressive piece to showcase. Any questions? No? All right, and then now onto this Debussy. This is not the mazurka. It's not such a well-known piece. It's a fairly early piece, actually. It's quite charming, not very fast. Here also you need very good control of dotted rhythm, a bit like the Schubert in grade 7. So you do need to use a lot of pedal, but if you notice, sometimes the left hand has got some lift and some quaver rest. So try to separate them as well, so that it sounds like a dance and it's not all connected. So just lift, remember in the mazurka, not like a waltz, sometimes there's a stress on the second beat, sometimes on the third beat. There's also a dotted rhythm that's part of this characteristics. So here at the start, there's a lot of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. You can almost slightly delay the second beat and give the second beat a bit of weight. So, and then soft. You do have to be careful about pedal, even though this Debussy is not a license to pedal however much you want. For example, in the third and fourth bar, when the right hand comes in, I don't think I'll pedal the whole thing, because then you get some clash, especially the next bar. So pedal later towards the third beat or even after the third beat. Some rather big chords in the left hand here. I would just use the right hand to play. So the right hand play triads. Yeah. So then now you get this dotted rhythm, which is a very common thing in mazurka. Think about. Yeah. So very light and very quick semi-quavers. Subito soft. Sorry. Then it becomes a little bit smoother for a while. Very light. So again, the semi-quavers should be almost like an acciaccatura. Very light chords in the left hand. Try it. Keep the wrist quite loose. And then it says tempo rubato here. It's quite charming here. A lot of the triplets should be treated almost like ornaments rather than too mathematical. A lot of this 1, 2, 3 again. So again, sometimes you could slightly delay that second beat. So from bar 25 again, so you can slightly hold back, take a breath before you start this tempo rubato. Bar phrases, and then here it becomes, this is bar 35, where you see the più piano. It becomes a little bit more sustained, more legato, so you can have longer pedal, more delicate, very almost impressionistic now. Fade away. In our tempo here, you see also I don't know why it's cordino. I suppose he meant sordino. You could use the soft pedal for a more kind of dreamy color. Then stronger now. That's the end of the first section. Then you get almost like a trio risoluto, lots of this dotted rhythm again. But this third and fourth bar is very relaxed. It's almost like a humular rhythm, sounding more like 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, very loose wrist, and the right hand, I would probably bring out the bass. The right hand is almost accompanying it, just this time soft. Soft, but still very rhythmical. Then now the left hand has the main melodic material. So the right hand just gently detached accompaniment chords. Building up. Back to the theme. Then a surprise change, instead of going back to D major, it suddenly shifts to F in bar 75. So do a subito pianissimo. You can take just a bit of time, possibly using the soft pedal there. So let me go from 4 bars before. Sorry. But again, still, although pianissimo and so on, still rhythmical in these dotted notes. Now, originally in the score, I wouldn't say this is the edition that the Hong Kong Schools Festival actually stipulated. I wouldn't say it's such a great edition. It's a very old edition, like the Dover edition. And here in bar 77 and 78, I definitely will still arpeggiate the left hand, just like the other passages. Later on, this edition misses out a few ties as well, actually. So let me go from bar 75. Then again, the dotted rhythm melody in the left hand. So right hand, slightly lighter, gently detached chords. Slightly slow down. Then new section. Answered by a softer B flat major. Slightly shape this. Then brighter again. Yeah. This is where I think the edition, if you have the original Dover edition, missed out a few ties. Let me just try to show you on my score. Wait, let me see. Hang on, trying to find my setting. Okay, can you see the scores? So where I've circled green, even in your score, you'll see ties, but actually I have actually added them, these few places. In the Dover edition, there's no tie, but I checked other editions, definitely there should be tie. It's just not very pianistic, and there's no reason why suddenly he doesn't want ties for here. It's exactly the same as the other parts. So even for the competition, I would definitely use ties there, okay? Okay, so where was I? Let me go from bar, bar 95. Soft. Then build up a bit. in bar 107 and so on, just have a gentle rocking movement with the right hand. Yeah, we don't want too much articulation here, so. Back to the theme, but this time a bit different with more diminished harmonies. And then it slows down a little bit. You get the same theme, but this time it's a bit more dreamy. Then getting slower. You get some staccatos here in bar 129, but it's all winding down, so not too short, gently detached. The second time, even slower. And then it's a big build-up, and you go faster accelerando to the end. So do use some pedal for this scale so that you get more sonority. Yeah, it's a very colorful piece, needing lots of character, good rhythmic control, and some rubato and so on. Yeah. Okay, any questions? No. All right, now let's move on to the Chinese pieces. The first one I think is this. How do you pronounce this? 三首前奏曲. Yeah. 三首前奏曲. Okay, this is the first one. I will say this is the hardest technically, this piece. And there are a lot of double notes, double chromatic notes and in fourth, which is fairly unusual. It's slightly jazzy actually in feel, this one. At the beginning, it sounds almost like a flute improvising slightly freely. So take a breath and then a new phrase in bar 3. Then if you check that 112 metronome mark that's given, it's actually pretty fast. I mean, if you can reach up to 96 and all that, it's lively enough. All these staccato notes have less pedal, so you see that I put just touches of pedal just for some of the bass notes. Yeah, the chromatic notes, there's no way about it. You do have to use double notes a lot of the time. Just very light, and then as you slur off, just lift the wrist. It doesn't need to be totally legato. Don't try for a really legato effect, just quite light. Yeah? So. And then the legato melody comes in. Yeah, there are some slightly difficult left-hand double notes like in bar 8, where you get there. Again, it doesn't have to be totally legato, just and lift at the end of it. So. Then use the right hand. Yeah, the main melody is always in the right hand all the time. So keep all this, although they are very busy and so on, keep all this light. So even all these double notes there. Let me go from bar 13. Then it starts to get more jazzy with all these dissonant chords there. Also feel the punchiness of these syncopations from bar 17. So fairly strong, but loosen your wrist. You can approach it with slightly higher wrist, like a jazz pianist. This kind of position. So slightly jerk forward, thrust forward for all the accents. But it all needs to be in tempo. I would say fairly strict in tempo most of the time. This is bar 17. slightly difficult double notes in the right hand in bar 21. Then I've given you two alternative fingerings. Personally, I prefer the one on the brackets where I just slide down. But you might want to use this 3 and then 5. It's just that I don't quite like having to repeat the thumb. But try out both. Yeah? Bar 21. Then becomes quite jazzy and fairly grand. Definitely use a lot of pedal. This is bar 23. If you want to, you can just put a slight pedal change in the middle of the bar if you find it a little bit noisy, but keeping the whole bar works also. I think it's quite nice in bar 24 and 26 if you could bring out a little bit of this inner part. Yeah. Again, you don't have to change pedal at the end, but you could also feel that syncopation. Yeah. Let me go from bar 23 again. Then suddenly cut off, and then get this octave. Crescendo quite a lot, so the second later part of this bar you can use some pedal to help that. And then the composer is very precise, 2 seconds of pause. So 1, 2. You don't need to really count in semiquavers or demi-semi. It's just a free tremolo in the right hand. Then you switch hands. The right hand has the melody, left hand has the tremolo. Now it's slightly awkward here. This is bar 33, 34, because the right hand melody very often clashes with the left hand notes. So the right hand is more important, that is the melody. So you can actually, in some sense, slightly cheat. Sometimes don't play the F when the right hand has got the F. Yeah, so when the right hand is doing this, I'm actually just playing D and then resume it when the right hand gets out of the way. Otherwise you get clashing all the time. Keep the left hand very light here. Then I would say bar 40 is one of the most difficult parts technically because of the left hand. It's extremely hard. I found that it helps me a little bit in bar 40 if I just use the right hand to help for the third and the fourth semiquavers. So if you look here, if I play slow, and then I just help just 2 notes. I mean, you might say just 2 notes. What difference does it make? But it does make the left hand less tired. Yeah. So. Yeah. Do a crescendo and moving into bar 41 here. I think you can do a slight broadening. Take a little bit of time. Same thing with the lot of double notes. Pause. Then across the page you get that big theme again. This octave again, and this time no pause, going straight to the big theme again. That chromatic scale is really very hard to get in time. Again, I think here you can broaden the tempo a little bit. You'll notice I've put some fingerings there, and it's not the usual chromatic scale fingering. It helps when you play really fast fingering, really fast chromatic lines, not to use the traditional ABRSM grade 8 exam kind of fingering. But if you look at it, I've put them in groups, and then group of 4, and then even a group of 5, and then group of 3. So you practice them in groups, and then just think of that as one very quick arpeggiation. So from there, then 5, then you put them together, yeah, to get this wave. And definitely I'll pedal it. So then more syncopations and double notes in the right hand. Now, when I first learned this piece, I didn't know this piece before, I thought it's all the same pattern, but if you look at the 3rd and the 4th bar in bar 58 and 59, it's slightly different, the pattern, the rhythmic pattern. So the first 2 bars, and then it becomes, yeah, and then here there's an impossible leap right all the way down. So here again, I would just cut off and take a tiny bit of time. Yeah, right hand is playing all black notes. Left hand is playing chromatic. Here I've just worked out as groups. You might work out some different groups of fingerings and so on. That's entirely possible. Maybe start a little bit stronger and then do a diminuendo and then crescendo. So no slowing down, very tight rhythm. Yeah, well, it's quite a fun piece once you get to know it. When you first learn it, there are a lot of technical challenges. Yeah, well, for me anyway. Maybe your student can play it easily. Okay, the next one is a Buffalo Boy playing the small flute. Here is basically ABA. The last A section is just a decorated version of the first A. So very lyrical. Commodo means very easygoing, comfortable kind of pace. You can have a little bit of rubato here and there, and on the page it looks pretty much the same texture, like a 2-part texture. Imagine like a flute and a bassoon doing a duet. But try to make most of these different dynamic levels to get different colors. And here, it's perfectly possible to play most of this page with no pedal at all, but it can sound a little bit dry depending on your acoustics. So you could just add in pedal here and there. I've just put some suggestions in. You can, there are a lot of possibilities as far as pedal is concerned. So very cantabile, very legato. So slightly flatter fingers, don't articulate. This is not like playing Hanon kind of hand position. So imagine flute and bassoon. And then in bar 4, it becomes loud and slightly detached, but a more portato, like what we were talking about. So even the forte needs to be lyrical here. Let me just go from bar before, bar 3. And then like an echo. Sorry, let's do that again from the forte. Echo. Again, echo. Then you can una corda for the pianissimo, so very light, maybe less pedal here. sorry. So it's always quite graceful and cantabile. And then right at the end here, it's almost like a music box, very light. You could use a little bit more pedal and also soft pedal if you want. Very quiet chord, so very relaxed. You can think about sweeping out. So some people find it more useful if they slide in instead. That's another possibility. Then the middle section is very brilliant and very much more in tempo, very much more metrical. You get, I mean, it's very typical Chinese music. There's a lot of very sparkling ornaments. I mean, there are many, many different ways of using fingering here, but I find it, just give it a try. I find it most useful to use this 1, 3, 2, 1 to get that sparkle. So 1, 3, 2, 1. The first note needs to be very clear and the last note. You can make up a whole series of exercises based on this 1, 3, 2, 1. And just think of a drop on the first note and then spring up. Yeah, so you get this. For all of them, actually, I use 1, 3, 2. You can use other solutions, 2, 3, 2, 2, 4, 3, and so on. I'm just using touches of pedal where it says on the first beat, generally for this. Yeah, pay attention to all the dynamics here. So it doesn't start out too loud, and then there are some sudden changes of dynamics. So. Then suddenly soft, and then loud. Yeah, so it does require a lot of agility, a lot of leaps in the left hand. And then the right hand has got some sparkling semiquavers as well. Yeah. So again, lots of clear finger work needed for this one, this passage. And then the opening comes back, but slightly decorated, so very lyrical again. This time there's no more portato touch. Everything is quite legato. Now it doesn't say so, but you can mirror the opening and have an echo effect here. So from bar 56, where it's forte, and then echo. And then grow into this. Soft pedal. Then lift the soft pedal. Sorry. And then you can soft pedal at the end, and again, put a little bit more pedal here to get a bit more sonority. Very delicate. Ending like a question. Yeah, so very graceful outer section and then very brilliant and rhythmical middle section. Okay, then we come to the last piece, hide and seek. Now this one, the particular edition I have has got a metronome suggestion, which I feel is far too slow. You can try it out and see. I feel that this should be fairly lively, although it is in 4, not in 2. And when editions put brackets, that's just a suggestion on the editor's part. So I have to say, I don't quite agree with the opening metronome mark there. I would still maybe feel this in 2, but a slow 2 in a bar. Yeah, the 1-2-0 is pretty slow. It's kind of, which I find is not quite suitable. It needs to sound slightly playful. I mean, this is hide and seek after all. So rather short staccatos, with a lot of spring in it. But pay attention to the slurs from the 4th beat, and that's why I use some pedal to help join it. So. And then there's a funny little accelerando effect here, almost as if the children is running around trying to find a hiding place and so on. So it kind of tumbles forward, and then you need to get back to tempo. Let me start from the beginning again. Then back to tempo. More accelerando. And then here, you get a rather unusual right hand being in 4/4 time, but the left hand sounds like a waltz. So it takes some time to coordinate at the start. This is bar 17. Yeah. And then across the page, you get this section where you will think that there's an accelerando, but this time you keep the tempo, there's no accelerando. Then it moves to the middle lyrical section. I mean, this reminds me so much of the Moni Hua, isn't it? So very lyrical, left hand, keep it extremely light, just background harmony. So and then suddenly it becomes more playful. No pedal. Pause. Then back to the lyrical theme. Then again, accelerando. Then the first section comes back, pretty much the same most of the time. Then you get that funny waltz figure in the left hand now. No accelerando yet. And then here it starts to go fast. So you need to pace yourself, quite a few bars of it from bar 81 to the end. It needs to just get faster and faster. So start in tempo. Ending fast and brilliant. There's a big leap in the left hand right at the end. So if you want, you can use the right hand just to steal that last note, the B, of the second last bar, bar 87. So right hand plays the B, then you have a bit more time to get back to the to get down to the A. I mean, it'll be awful if you end on the wrong note, isn't it? So Yeah, I think this is quite a fun piece. Okay, okay, I believe that's it for the pieces. Now, feel free to unmute yourself and ask any questions or any comments that you have.
好，請問大家有冇啲乜嘢問題想問 Mr. Lu 咧？或者大家有冇學生彈中國音樂組啊？
Yeah, anybody
比較少
choosing
啲
that?
I think fewer people will
Not too
choose
many,
the
冇咁多啊。
Chinese. I guess 係啊，應該少啲嘅，係啊。
Yeah.
但係都
Yeah,
都
but
幾
I
有趣，
think
係啊。
Yeah, this last one I think is quite good.
係啊，係啦 ，I think it's good。咁大家有冇啲乜嘢想問 Mr. Lu 關於頭先我哋嗰啲嘅示範咧，或者嗰啲曲目？
大家好有信心，所以冇問題。I mean, Bonnie did ask a question. Yeah.
Bonnie.
Yeah, I mean,
okay.
whoever who adjudicate and so on, whether it's examiners or pianists and all that, they will all know and will accept a lot of different way of playing Baroque pieces. So don't worry that you have to do it a certain kind of articulation or so on. Yeah.
Yes. 係啊，其實都係有少少，有時演繹上可能個個評判都會有少少唔同，咁所以係啦。咁但係 Mr. Lu 嘅
，Yeah, they will accept different interpretation. A good adjudicator will not fix onto just one way of doing things for music, especially Baroque pieces.
Yes, agree. 係啦。即係我諗佢哋個人風格都好緊要啊！即係其實可能評判就算覺得同我演繹諗嘅有啲唔同喎，但係佢都覺得好好喎，咁其實都即係都未必會係會唔會攞得唔好分啊？如果同評判嘅諗法唔一樣，所以大家可以最緊要一致啲咯。好似頭先 Mr. Lu 講，可能嗰啲演繹裝飾音啊嗰啲一致啲啦嚇，即係你點樣演繹嗰度，可能有啲類似嘅位又要咁樣跟住啊咁。係大家有冇？中國高級組係啊，都好難，好難喎，142係好難。
142邊首啊？嗰個
中國音樂係第一首最難嗰首。
哦，係第一首真係最難。I needed to practice a lot of that.
I can imagine.
I thought, oh dear, why did Stella ask me to look at this piece? It's quite hard. And I don't know whether I'll ever play it again. But it's quite good practice for double notes. And it's not thirds, it's actually in fourth. So yeah, that is quite hard.
Yeah, 好 challenging.
Similar to Gershwin Prelude. Yeah, it is a bit jazzy. It's one of those pieces where when you start learning it, you thought, oh, I don't like this, it's too hard. And then after some time, you actually start to enjoy it because it is actually quite effective.
Yes, agree. Yes.
出唔出名啊？呢個 composer
都唔係好出唔出名啊？中國音樂家咯，係落去都係嗰啲嚟嘅，其實係啦，少啲人揀啊！我相信會，我覺得係啦，除非比較 technical strong 嘅。
第二首 the little boy with the flute, I have heard that many times. In competitions.
係嗰個都出名，係。第其他係啦，咁仲有冇其他問題想問啦？大家，我今日時間係非常之好嘅，教得準確。
好到準時。
阿 Mr. Lu 嘅 timing 非常之好。OK， 係啊，咁。
你 want to take 你要影張相啊？
係喎，我爭啲又唔記得喎，真係。咁咪我哋一齊開鏡頭同。